Tonight, I am going to discuss the final chapter of the book Essential Practice by Thrangu Rinpoche. This chapter is called The Fruit of Realization. Again, he is talking about a treatise of Kama Lashilas on the Middle Way School of Meditation. Now, he's talked about a lot up until this point, temporary signs of results of practice, and he talks about ultimate signs. He says that temporary signs, we need pure motivation of compassion to have temporary signs, and we need to have thoroughly practiced the Mahayana as opposed to the Hinayana, or as it is called today, foundation vehicle. But ultimately, that we get pure results through practicing the 6 paramitas. Here they are called the 6 transcendences. So as a result, our mind becomes thoroughly pure. To go back then, we have become accustomed to this idea of a separate self. And as a result of that, we have afflictive states of mind, negative emotions, and so forth that are based on self and other. This isn't in the text, but I like to describe this as taking that which is not a self to be a self, and taking that which is not an other to be an other. But again, through practicing the excellent Dharma, practicing according to the teachings, having a good relationship with a guru, that our experience deepens and our mental afflictions gradually weaken and become pacified. And this, of course, then leads to our minds becoming thoroughly purified. Now, temporary signs of this purification would be having good dreams, dreams of encountering Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, receiving Dharma teachings from them, and dreaming about receiving benefits for ourselves, benefits for other people, and so forth. Now, externally, it is said in the book that the deities will rejoice in our practice and will offer their help and protection. I have in my notes Drala. He didn't talk about that a lot, but they are, you could call them deities that protect the individual. To go on, many deities, and I'm assuming these are mundane deities here, will have faith and confidence in the Buddha and the teachings of the Buddha, and they will help protect us and protect our practice. Is going into a little bit more about Grala, but these are mundane deities. These are not enlightened deities. So there are a lot of beings out there that have come in contact with the Dharma. Well, they might not be enlightened. They have respect for the Dharma practitioners and so forth, and they can help us. So we can feel, you might say, a certain amount of being protected, security, and so forth. Right now at KTD, they are preparing for Losar with Dr. Lama Karma, and I think yesterday they did Sendring, which is a long Mahakala, and then they'll do 3 days of, I don't know what the technical name is, but I'll call it extremely long Mahakala. They'll start at 5 o'clock in the morning and they'll go to probably 6, 7 o'clock at night. All of this is to, you might say, purify all the things that have happened this year to make room for a fresh start in the new years. Thrangu Rinpoche says that when we practice, it's best if we don't hope for the protection of these mundane deities, but we will receive their protection in dependence of our stable meditation. And I'm going to point this out too, that the phrase independence is used a lot in this text, in the teachings of Thrangu Rinpoche. I haven't tried to count it or anything, but it is very, very common. Independence of this, that happens, and since that has happened, independence on it, then something else happens, and so on down the line. It's all just emphasizing this interconnections that we have, how things do not arise because of their self-nature, because they have no self-nature. He then talks about bodhisattvas. Because bodhisattvas create and accumulate a vast amount of merit and wisdom every moment because of their limitless compassion, their selflessness, and so forth. And to consider this and realize that they have these wishes to benefit all sentient beings, that we might wish to benefit 10, 20, maybe 100, maybe 1,000. But by having this vast aspiration, these bodhisattvas accumulate much, much vaster virtue, merit, and wisdom, and that this enhances stable meditation. Then Thrangu Rinpoche asks a question. Again, he asks a lot of questions in this teachings. And this question is, how will afflictive obstructions and adaptions of bad states be refined? He says that these mental afflictions are a result of thinking that the aggregation of our body and mind to be a self. Again, taking that which is not a self to be a self. So we meditate on the selflessness of ourselves, the selflessness of other beings, and also the selflessness of phenomena. Also, it is very important to view others as more important than ourselves. This brings into play, of course, Tonglen. So now there are provisional antidotes, and I like this term, the final one. Sounds pretty serious there. So the afflictive states of mind, our kleshas, our passion and desire, our irritation and anger. I like to call it, well, it's ignorance, but I like to stress ignore, as in ignore ants. You've got the proverbial elephant in the room and you don't see it. And then there is jealousy and arrogance. These are the five main afflictive states of mind. And an interesting thing is, we don't find them in ordinary beings in pure forms. Desire might be stained with anger. Arrogance might be stained with jealousy. I think Chogyam Trungpa made this point, this observation, that we're so confused that we don't even have pure anger. We don't have pure desire, and so forth. So anyway, these obstructions can be refined and gradually purified. Our bad actions also can be refined and purified. And of course, with bad actions, what we want to do is stop them. So all we have to do is purify what we have done in the past. The metaphor that I have used is you are in a canoe and it's taking on water and you've got a bucket there getting the water out of the canoe so you won't sink. Well, if you don't plug the hole, you're going to spend a long time there bailing water out of your canoe. And maybe you're not going to get ahead of it. So we have to watch our actions and stop engaging in actions that create more negative karma. So habitual patterns these bad actions create, they can be weakened and refined also. Now, on the other hand, with love, compassion, the mind of awakening, stable meditation, we will only help others. We will not harm them. We will have well-being in our body and our mind. We will be free of discouragement and free of hatred. And then we will have, of course, happiness and well-being. And these will increase. And then others will not harm us. And many will help us. I find this phrase interesting, and that is that we will have beauty in many lifetimes. He then goes into the inner secret body, the inner channels and the winds, and that they will function well. And as a result, there'll be fewer illnesses that come to the body. Then our minds will be more pliable, that certain faults will just cease and our good qualities will continue to grow and grow and grow. And then he says this will result in us having clairvoyance and remarkable qualities. The term is magical abilities. I just talked with Lama Karma yesterday and recounted this story of an experience I had with Khenpo Karta Rinpoche, and it's this idea of clairvoyance that brought this up just now. This happened when, before the new addition or the new building was put at KTD, and there was this old hotel that had the kitchen in it, the dining room in it, living quarters, and so forth. And so I was standing there in the dining room waiting for them to blow the conch. And I happened to be standing right next to Khenpo Karta Rinpoche. And Bartotoko Rinpoche was living in the house at this time, and he had 3 little girls. And one of the little girls came into the room and yelled, "Rinpoche, Rinpoche, Rinpoche." And Khenpo Rinpoche put his arms down like that, bent over. She ran at him and leaped right into the arms. And he picked her up, put her head on his shoulder, and then with his other hand, he was just rubbing her back. And I'm watching this, and all of a sudden, I quit watching and just experienced what I was feeling. And it was just incredible love, just incredible love. And as soon as I realized that, Rinpoche raised his eyes up, looked right into my eyes long enough for me to know that he knew what I was feeling, and then he lowered his eyes again and went back to rubbing the little girl's back. And all of us, or many of his students, can tell similar stories about Khenpo Karta Rinpoche, that he definitely was clairvoyant. Another quality that manifests as we progress is that we can meet the Buddhas, we can make offerings to them, we can receive Dharma teachings from them. And then in successive lifetimes, we will take birth in their pure realms. As we progress and become bodhisattvas, we will take delight in benefiting others and practicing the Dharma. So as a result of this, gradually and then more and more quickly, we will achieve the final results, which is Buddhahood. So these are the results that will accrue to us. Now, there are benefits that will be for others. And when we cultivate love, compassion, good motivation, stability, and so forth. So with mental stability, our knowledge will increase. And then as a result of that, skilled in method or skillful means, same term, just different English words, will increase. And this means that we will be more skillful in how we can benefit other beings. We will find many, many ways to benefit beings. And by developing kindness and avoiding causing harm to others, others will not harm us. And there's a story about Thrangu Rinpoche fleeing the Red Army and how the soldiers fired their weapons, but they did not hit him. And he felt that this was purposeful, that they did not want to kill him. Rinpoche told a similar story, but with a little different meaning. And it was probably the same incident where there was this group of both monks and lay people with Thrangu Rinpoche in it, and Khenpo Karta Rinpoche, and I think a few others, important Rinpoches. And at one point, Red Army was up in the mountain looking down on them and just started firing at them. And Rinpoche said everybody just ran. What Khenpo Karta Rinpoche said was he visualized Gyalwang Karmapa on his back between him and the bullets. And he said that he could hear the bullets going by him and he could see them hitting in the grass in front of him, but he was not hit. Rinpoche finishes the story with a little bit of a smile on his face, because then at some point after that, and I'm not sure how long it was, but he met the Karmapa. And the Karmapa during the meeting smiled at Rinpoche and said, "You are supposed to visualize your guru above your head, not wear him like a coat." So we are fortunate that both Rinpoches were unhurt. And Khenpo Rinpoche said there was one monk that was hit I believe it was the knee, and he could not be saved, but everybody else escaped unhurt from that incident. So anyway, we will be of great benefit to other beings. We will have achieved very, very good results by traveling the path. And we will feel tremendous compassion for those who have not really understood the way things are, the nature of reality. And the nature of reality is, of course, that emptiness is also combined with compassion. You cannot have emptiness, a true understanding of emptiness, without compassion. So frequently it is put together, emptiness, compassion. So when this strong compassion arises, then you work tirelessly to benefit sentient beings. And while as ordinary beings, we would become extremely discouraged if we were tasked with, well, you have to empty samsara. You have to free every single sentient being. And we would get tired of that very quickly, but a Buddha and these great bodhisattvas will do this for aeons, working to free sentient beings. Now, this completes the teaching on the stages of meditation. So there are a few things here that Kamalashila added that I will go into. He has parting advice, and it is, excellent beings do not envy others or exhibit pride, that they desire great learning. And what that means is that they will learn from anyone if they can learn something important from that person. They will listen. And then whatever they find of value, they will hold it in their minds. Another way to put that is they'll remember it. So then they make the analogy here of swans. And I've never heard this about swans before, but swans are supposed to be able to separate water from milk and discard the water and then drink the milk. So excellent beings will listen to anyone and everyone, and then they will retain what is important and then will let go of the things that are negative and meaningless and so forth. An excellent being will naturally discard the remainder without feeling any need to criticize what they discard. Thrangu Rinpoche then goes on to say that this metaphor means that all of us ought to rid ourselves of bias, of, quote, stubborn adherence to our own point of view and rejection of others' point of view. Again, this reminds me of a conversation I overheard once at a restaurant. It was at a booth. And so here was the back. I was here. Another person was over here having lunch with another person that they worked with. Well, when I'm here and the other person is there, I didn't want to listen, but I couldn't help but overhear it. Most of it, I just tried to just look at it as background noise. But the woman said one thing that really struck home, and that was, I told him, I don't understand why you don't understand me. And that is what he is talking about here. We don't want to be in that position. So that is what is meant by ridding ourselves of bias. We want to listen carefully to the advice of others and keep good advice and use it to help ourselves, help others, and that excellent beings will do this and we should emulate them. Finally, Kamala Sheila has a prayer of aspiration, and it is, by the power of whatever virtue may have arisen in dependence upon having composed this treatise, may many beings be able to enter into and cultivate these paths. And that is pretty much it for the book.